Yo, I'm kind of bored.
Yeah, me too.
You wanna watch a movie?
Yeah, sure. What you got?
Alright, come over. Let's watch Bottom Gun.
Really? On this?
Yeah, man, it's a monitor.
Alright, fine.
Yo, it's Cal again from Projects Gaming. Today we're going to be doing another build, but before we start, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification. The centerpiece of this build is the Jonbos D31. It's a relatively newish case. It's a MATX case. The biggest selling point is the screen, and I do think a lot of manufacturers will be adopting this design language moving forward because it's actually quite cool. The first thing I noticed when removing these panels is that these screws don't fully come out. Which I can really appreciate because in the past, we've lost quite a few of these when we were doing our builds. You can run 240, 280, or 360 AIO in the case, but the ability varies on the placement of your PSU. This chart shows you what is doable. All right, first things first, let's go over all the parts. The heart of this build, we're going with the Intel Core i5-13600K. It's 14 cores and up to 5.1 gigahertz. We're dropping this CPU into the MSI B660M Mortar Wi-Fi DDR4. For storage, we're going with the tried and tested 1 terabyte of 960 EVO Plus M.2 from Samsung. Alright, so before we put this into the case, don't forget to include your backplate for your AIO. I always forget this step and I always end up having to take this back out. So you just put it there, slot it right there, and then you need one of these. There's actually a difference, so there's a fat side and a skinny side. You want to make sure you're using the fat side. So we're going to drop the motherboard into the case. Lots of room. Pretty awesome of them of labeling all the screws, so it's easy to find. Next up is the Valkyrie GL360 cooler. We had another video just for this cooler, so see the link in the description below. So you want to make sure that you figure out your orientation. So we're going to be doing it this way, and then we're going to get all the screws in. The power supply we're using is the fully modular V850 SFX 80 Plus Gold from Coolermaster. Hey, so we're using a SFX power supply just so that if we ever decide to run a 4000 series graphic card, we have the option. But the case itself can definitely fit a larger PSU. So that's why we're going to be using the adapter to make this work. So we're gonna drop the PSU in. So this is the orientation that we did it in. All right. These are the fans. We purchased 4 additional RGB case fans from Valkyrie. Again, the packaging of these are superb considering that these are case fans. It's got a magnetic dust filter. We're in the home stretch. We're going with the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 Ti for the GPU. Dual fan design gets the job done. All right, some time has passed. As you can see, we actually installed most of the cables in. We don't want to bore you with that, so that's why we did it off camera. But last but not least, we're going to be installing the RAM. For the RAM, we're going with the Corsair VENGENANCE RGB RS. So this is DDR4. This is 32 gigabytes, 3,600 megahertz. Okay, so if you're using a SFX power supply like we are using, you're going to run into issues when you're trying to connect the power cable to the CPU, just because the length of the cable itself isn't long enough. So that's why you need an extender like this. So that's what we're going to be using today. So ignore all the cables because we haven't done cable management yet, but you can actually put SSD here and a SSD here. And then the way it works is you route all the cables around here. So for here, we're running a triple fan setup, but you can actually have another SSD here or a solid state drive here. So replace this with that. So you basically only run a 2-set fan up and then you have space for that. So right now for this PSU, it's hooked on to right here. So this is the lowest setting. And if you're running a bigger graphic card, you're gonna have to push this up. But this is also where the cooler sits. So you have to basically sacrifice one or the other. All right, let's have a closer look at the screen. So to power this, you actually have a USB-C as well as a HDMI. And there's a couple of buttons here as well. There's a power button and volume button up and down. And it's supposed to come, it should come with one of these screen accessory boxes. Make sure you actually get it because when we purchased ours, it didn't come with it. We had to go back to the store and ask for it. And this inside comes with a user guide, how to use it. You have the USB Type-C to A. And then this is for the stand. So you can actually run this monitor off of this case as a standalone. And then you have the HDMI cable, the video cable here. And here is the screen itself. I'm sorry, it's not the screen, the mesh panel. Let me just see if I can get this out. So the mesh panel is to replace the screen if you were to run the screen as a standalone, and you can actually put this mesh panel right here to cover up the hole. So that's how it works. All right, so we have the two cables here for the screen right here. And so the first thing you have to do is open this up and take out this piece. So they designed a piece specifically for this. So you can see the cutouts for the two cables right here. And we gotta make sure we run it through here. So now we're going to be setting up the case monitor. You want to make sure we have it in the right orientation, landscape. Next up, we want to make sure we uncheck the show my taskbar on all displays. They recommend using third-party software such as Wallpaper Engine from Steam or IATA 64 Extreme. In this particular example, we're using IATA. So you can follow along the steps on here if you're too lazy to read the manual. Both of the recommended softwares are not free, so we're currently using a trial version of this, but we're gonna opt for the paid version to get rid of the watermark. As you can see right now, the interface is quite ugly, so you gotta go to Jonbos website to download their interface, which is a lot better, as you can see. They have different options depending on the age of your GPU. So you have a couple of colors to choose from, but we notice blue and green are basically the same. I think orange looks the best though. right, so now it's time to put everything back together. So we're gonna put this piece back in. So this is really good because it can hide the ugly parts of the case where the PSU is and all the cables. So putting back the glass panel, just snap on, no screws required, boom. So now we're going to be putting on the front panel. Again, this is all just snap on. So for the screen, if you want to run this on the side, so you take it off, and then you unplug this for now, and you actually run it on the side like this as a standalone. And then you have a replacement cover that they provide for you. It's like this. Wrong side. So that's what it looks like if you're running the mod on the side, and then this is the replacement cover. So the last piece, the one, the cover on the top to keep the dust out. And you just screw it in. And it's done.
Don't forget to peel off the plastic from the inside of the glass panel.
Yo, PsyDuck makes the difference, man.
PsyDuck indeed makes the difference. As you can see, we're big fans of CSGO, and right now the graphic card is sitting around like 70 Celsius, and we're hitting about 300-ish for FPS. Heh, you dead. For Heaven 4.0 on max settings, we're hitting around 100 frames per second, with the temps of the GPU being like 70-ish, and then we're hitting like around 55 degrees for the CPU. On Cinebench testing, we got a score of 23,574 on multi-core and 1,898 on single core. Enjoy the B-roll, guys.
So we're finally finished building the case, and just some initial thoughts about this case itself. It's quite easy to build in. There's a lot of room. Just be mindful of the parts that you picked, and because it affects the placement of the PSU, which ultimately affects what kind of cooler you can run and the size of graphic cards you can put in here. In terms of qualms about this case, definitely has to do with the monitor. Not so much with the hardware itself, but more so with the software or the lack of software. So in order to actually use this monitor, you have to use a third-party software, which is a pain in the butt. In our particular case, we're using AIDA Extreme 64, and we had issues getting the image aligned perfectly within this screen. So that's something that you have to worry about. And the screen itself, the cables run through the case itself and out the back and plugs into the motherboard. It's not the cleanest look. But I do know why they do that, because you can actually run the screen on the side, in which case you definitely have to plug it through the back. But overall, I mean, this is a very, very good case. And for the first attempt at including a monitor, I think it's well done and well executed. I think all they're missing is just the software for it. And if they get that down, I think this is something I would recommend to everyone that I know. So that's about it. And I guess please subscribe, like, hit the bell notification, and we'll see you guys in the next one.